Hello, my name is Mr. Bust, and I'm going to explain Lab 3, searching for iron ore, and this is going to be part 2 where you're looking for a buried iron ore formation. So you're going to need a sandbox basically with a buried iron ore sample. You'll need the LabQuest device, the magnetic field sensor. Make sure that the sensor's on the 0.3 setting. And what I want you to do is make sure that the east side of the sandbox is the side that has the low end of the ruler reading. So basically what it is, I set up the ruler to read from 10 to 30, and that the east side of the sandbox has that 10 reading, and then the west side is going to have the 30. I'm also hovering over transect 1 to start. There are 3 transects written in red, and I'm going to hover over the first one. Basically the idea is this, that somewhere in this sandbox, either in the middle of transect 1, 2, or 3, is a buried iron deposit, which is just a washer, just like we learned how to take magnetic field sensor readings over a magnetized washer for part 1. Now we're just going one step further, and we're seeing if we can locate that washer without having to dig it up. Yeah, you could just dig it up, right? But the idea is to see how this is going to work with your sensing equipment and if you can pick it up. So go ahead and set up your LabQuest. Again, I'll go ahead and just kind of walk you through this again. Make sure that you're running the events with entry mode. So go ahead and discard. Again, we're running events with entry. And the name of the event is distance. I'll just write DIST for distance. And the units are centimeters, so I'll just write cm. Okay, that looks good. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to set that down then. I'm going to take readings, instead of going from 0 to 20, I'm going to go from 10 to 30 just because the ruler fits better. The ruler just doesn't fit very well over the sandbox from the 0 to 20. So I'm just going to kind of line 20 up in the middle, and I'm just going to do my readings from 10 to 30. And I'm gonna get as close, here I'll move it like this, to the sand as possible without actually getting sand in the sensor. Because that washer is not super powerful, and you're going to have a hard time getting a reading if you're hovering too high over the washer. Alright, let me just demonstrate this, and then I'll pause it here and kind of show you what it looks like when you have the data. First I'm going to 0 this. Right, then I'm going to hit play. Okay, and then making sure I'm between the red line here, I'm going to go ahead and hit keep, and I'm just going to call this the 10 centimeter mark. Okay, and now I'm going to hit keep, and I'm going to call this the 11, and I'm going to keep doing this all the way across. Keep. I'm going to hit 12, and I do this all the way across to 30. Okay, I just finished all of my readings for the first transect line, going all the way from 10 to 30. Notice that my data just looks kind of weird. I bet the magnetic steel is not, or iron is not in that region, but we need that data anyway. So this is kind of important to make sure you do this in the right order. I want you to go ahead and hit stop. Hit the file cabinet icon. Now I'm on run 2. Run 2 should be for transect number 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and move my ruler over transect line number 2, which is in the middle of the sandbox. And I know this is tedious, but go ahead and take your readings now the same way from 10 to 30 over transect number 2. Okay, so I just finished making my run on transect line number 2, and you can tell that obviously the steel, the magnetized washer, just based on the fact that that curve is almost perfect, it replicates pretty much what we had in part 1. It's, without a doubt, it's in transect 2. That being the case, I am really interested in having you finish this data run and having all 3 runs be on the same graph. So again, I'd ask that you kind of hit stop when you're done with the transect line. We've done all the readings 10 through 30 for transect 2. Okay, then save that run again by tapping that picture of a file cabinet. If you know what I'm talking about, it's right there. After you tap it, it should say that you're on run 3 now. And then to finish this lab, to finish the data, go ahead and move the ruler over to transect line 3. Okay, that's the third one here, the last one. Take your magnetic field sensor once again. I'm going to put this on here just so you can see what I'm talking about. You're going to hold this again at 0, or 10 in our case. You'll hit play, and then go through this sequence again where you're going to hit keep. You're at the distance of 10. Okay. Go to 11. Hit keep. 11. Okay. And continue this all the way over again for transect 3, going from 10 to 30. Okay, I just finished adding all my plot points for transect line 3, 10 to 30. And so the graph kind of looks like this. Again, it doesn't make any sense. Well, it shouldn't. I'm pretty sure that the washer is somewhere in transect line 2, and we'll check that in just a minute. So what I'd like to do now is make sure that you're able to get this data on your iPad correctly. So take a look at your iPad, and what I want you to do is I want you to view all 3 runs at the same time. To do that, tap these 3 horizontal bars here, and you're going to see a couple other runs. You should, if you did this right, you should have run 1, 2, and 3 here. So go ahead and make sure that they're checked. Okay, and that should have added them to your screen. Go ahead and hit the horizontal bars again. I think it'll look better if we have points and lines both on here. Done. It might also be good when you screenshot this to keep this toggle switch, or whatever I'm going to call this, these open, because then you can see that run 1 is green, and run 1, remember, is transect line number 1 on here. Run 2 is blue. Obviously that's where the magnet is, and run 3 is red. So it might be a good idea when you screenshot this to have that available. Let's just check and see. I mean, you can do this. Is the washer in transect 2? So you can kind of just carefully check. No, it is. Make sure to leave it where it is, though, because it's oriented in a specific way where north is facing east. So just kind of, you can check when you're done. Obviously just, oh, did we get it right? And check that out. Let's go back here, though, and add our data now. So in Notability, under Part 2, make sure to add that screen. That you did a lot of work to get that, so make sure to add that to your report. Label the line for transect 1, so just take a minute, and you can label your lines 1, 2, and 3. If they're already labeled here, you might not have to relabel them. Run 1 is green, run 2 is blue, run 3 is red. So I guess we're good because it's already labeled there. Sketch the location of the sample iron ore. It was right there in the middle. Number of sandbox. Alright, that is going to be on the north side. This is sandbox number 9, so I would just write that down. This is sandbox number 9. Alright. If you are going to hover a magnetic field sensor over a magnet or magnetized iron washer from south to north, what would the resulting graph look like? Well, here we went over it from north to south. Okay? And when we went from north to south, it went down then up. But if we went from south, which is a positive reading, to north, the graph would look like that, where it would go up first over the south side of the magnet or washer and then down. Because remember, the south side of the magnet is going to give you a positive reading, and the north side of the magnet is going to give you a negative reading. And that's the point at the middle, where you're going in between the south and the north side.